And we're back. The dog is still moving around in the background. I'm just gonna throw his ball around. It's gonna make noise. Sorry, guys. Let me grab this. Say hi to YouTube, Jaeger. You being a good boy? Can you sit? Can you sit for all the people at YouTube? Oh, he's so good. There you have your ball. He loves that ball. Anyway, I'm doing a tutorial. Stop distracting me, boo-boo. So, we were talking about the differences in ears. And as you can see, the German Shepherd and the Coyote have ears that are very, very similar to one another. You can still notice that they're different, but fundamentally they're still the same. They're very large in compared to the size of their head. And that's what you really have to pay attention to when you're drawing these animals, is that a German Shepherd has very tall ears. A coyote has very tall ears. A wolf has very short ears. Like not even close to the size of these two. And another animal that's the same way as that are foxes. Foxes. Yeah, I have a Google tab over here. Why don't I just use that? I never use this Google tab. Let's go with red fox, since that's the one everybody likes to draw. Personally, I prefer other types of foxes over red foxes. The red foxes are cute too. I like foxes. K-Link has sort of converted me to the side of the fox. I'm still more of a hyena person than anything else, and we'll go over hyena ears too, even though they're not canines. We'll go over hyena ears too, since people like to draw me fan art and they kind of do it wrong. Not that I'm in any way not appreciative. I love getting fan art. I think it's absolutely humbling. I remember when I was 13 and I had my favorite artist who I just when she talked to me, I just died. Her screen name was Black Raven, but I think she's changed it now. I think it's like Nerversus or something like that. You can find her in my watch list on my DeviantArt page. Anyway, she talked to me at some point, and I just was flabbergasted. And I always wanted to draw fan art for her, and now all of a sudden, it's like the circle has come, has come fully around, and now I'm the person that everybody is drawing fan art for. Jaeger, can you stop that? I'm trying to do a tutorial, boo-boo. He was sleeping for the past 4 hours, and then the moment I started this is when he gets up and starts playing. Anyway, what am I looking for again? I'm not really good at talking. I get really distracted really easily. I'm a little bit derp. We'll use this fox. He's pretty enough. But, again, you can see that the fox has very tall ears as well compared to the dog. Now, so you're like, well, all these... So, okay, that gives us the difference between a wolf ear and any other ear. But what about the differences between the three? Well, I'm going to tell you. Notice how straight the ears are of a German Shepherd. His ears are sticking up very straight. Now, he's probably listening to something a little bit behind him, so he might actually just have his ears a little bit raised. But he's got very tall, straight ears. And compared to the coyote, whose ears are a little pointed, a little leaning forward a little ways, they're kind of coming forward a little bit. And that seems to be a tribute of particularly of wild canids. Their ears are simply more mobile, and you'll notice probably the biggest difference is the muscular pads at the base of the ears that control the movements of the ears. Wolves in particular have huge muscle pads at the back of their ears, and I'll get another picture to show you guys that. I found one earlier when I was debating doing this. It was on the left side over here someplace. Where you at? There it is. Now, this is funky colored, so I apologize for that, but we're not looking at the colors, we're looking at the shape of the ears here. And you can see that the back of the ear here is just this thick. It's almost, particularly you can see it in this one, his ear is practically just like a solid pyramid. It has an extremely wide base and then tapers up to the top. Extremely wide base, tapers up to the top, but it's very short. It's not, super long. It doesn't come out to here. It's just a very straight, very sturdy kind of ear. And then you compare that to, say, the fox, whose ear is, it's got that same sort of shape where he's got a very muscular pad back here, but it's, probably not as much as the wolf because his ears are taller. So what ends up happening is that the muscle pad ends up looking smaller because the rest of the ear is bigger. So just the way that our brains work in identifying proportions is we think that the muscle pad is smaller when it probably is the same size, But you see another big difference. Wild canines tend to have relatively thick ears in terms of the I don't even know how to describe it. The thickness of the skin that makes up the ear, which you can really only see in the rim. You see this part over here, this very edge of the ear right here. This is really hard to do because I'm using a mouse and holding a camera at the same time. But this rim right here is very thick in most wild canines. You can see a little bit on this side too here. This part that comes out, this is the rim of the ear, which a lot of people like to color funky colors for their characters. But it's important to realize what it is that you're drawing when you're drawing it. And again, you don't have to like sit here and study the cartilage layout of the ear, or study how the inner ear canal connects to the brain. Jaeger, what are you eating? Stop that. Stop, it's so disruptive. But you don't have to study like the technical definitions, or you don't have to like apply any mathematic formulas to this. You're just using your eyes to say what makes a coyote look like a coyote. What makes a wolf look like a wolf? What makes an African wild dog look like an African wild dog? And I'll show you them too, because they're another one that a lot of people, African wild dogs actually people are pretty good, because they're pretty distinct in terms of their appearance, which helps a lot. But it's again, it comes down to mostly ear shape, and of course it's more obvious with an African wild dog than with any other type of wild dog. But they have these giant satellite dishes for ears. You can see this; it's almost completely circular. There's no point anywhere really. It's almost entirely circular unless you view it from the side, and that's because the ears of a canine are hollow. They're like, it's almost like if you took a cone and you hollowed out. You took a cone, cut it in half, and hollowed out the middle. This is a painting, so don't use this as actual reference. I'm just showing you because it's got the ear turned sideways. But you see that once it turns sideways, it's actually very thin. Even though from the front it looks like this giant satellite dish, it's actually very thin from the sides. And that's something that you want to keep in mind when drawing any sort of canine, because again, the thickness of the ear is different. As I was saying before, the thickness of this wolf's ear is significantly greater than the thickness of a German Shepherd's ear. So you notice that the German Shepherd and most domestic dogs are lacking the giant muscle pad that goes on the bottom of the base down here that creates the curve. You see it over here, you see this curve on this side? It's here in wild dogs, but in a lot of domestic dogs, they have it greatly diminished. It's there, but it's greatly diminished in terms of proportion. And it is also diminished a little bit here. Oh, it's not diminished, it's just kind of funky in an African wild dog. But, foxes have it. And I'm not sure if actually coyotes have it. I don't really draw coyotes. Oh, they do. So you can see it right here. Right here at the base. It usually goes up from the where it attaches to the skull. And it usually goes up, and usually about halfway to the ear. Halfway up the ear is when it'll usually dissipate into the ear. Now, it changes depending on how tall the ear is. For example, wolves, it goes practically right up to the tip because they have such short ears. But with coyotes and taller-eared animals, it kind of hangs out at the base mostly. So you could, but you understand now why canines have the ears that are wide at the base and taper upwards. That's why, is because they have the muscles at the base, and then there's nothing up top. The top is just cartilage that just can flop around and stuff if you wanted to, really. So that's that. That's what I wanted you guys to sort of notice. Is just to recap here, is that wolves have very short ears, very short compared to most other canines. Very short and conical shaped. It's got a very wide base, and it tapers up to the top, but it's still a little bit round at the top, so don't draw it like a perfect point. Coyotes have very tall ears, very tall, not so much wide, but just very tall ears that are somewhat rounded when viewed from the front, and then somewhat pointed as they turn away, but very round. Relatively thin because they live in hot areas, with a relatively prominent muscle at the base. German Shepherds and other types of domestic dogs generally have, again, taller ears. Taller than wolves, much taller than a wolf's ear. Wolves have very short ears to conserve body heat. German Shepherds and other dogs don't really need that. They don't have really all that much in terms of muscle padding back here on the base. So it's mostly tall, very thin, usually relatively pointed ears. Now, German Shepherd has actually a very round ear, but that's just this particular breed. And foxes, I have 10 seconds left, and foxes have relatively thick ears. So that's that. I hope you learned something from this, and I'll try and make more.